You're listening to the Bots and Bosses podcast, the only show where robots and humans attempt to work side by side. Presented by John Binks, technologist, author, and your AI ringling tour guide. So, buckle up and let's deep dive.
Welcome to the Bots and Bosses podcast, presented by John Binks. This is episode 36, and originally aired on January 30th, 2026. Today's show is sponsored by Titan Technologies, shaping the future through innovative and transformational solutions. Check out their website at www.titantechnologies.com.
Yeah, big thanks to Titan Technologies for the support.
Absolutely. So usually we kick off these deep dives by, tearing apart a stack of white papers or maybe dissecting a new piece of legislation coming out of Washington.
Right, or Brussels, usually something pretty dense.
Yeah, exactly. But today the source material is, it's different. It isn't a PDF. It isn't a news clip. It's what I'm calling a listening tour.
A listening tour. I mean, that sounds a little grand for a book launch, doesn't it? You've been out in the wild promoting Bots and Bosses and Bots and Brilliance. Mm-hmm. And usually that just involves, signing your name until your hand cramps up and smiling for selfies.
That's exactly what I thought it was going to be. You have this very specific, polished mental image of what a Meet the Author event looks like. Mm. You picture the table near the front, the stack of crisp hardcovers.
A nice pen. Right. Maybe a pitcher of water. You think it's going to be highly transactional.
Exactly. On paper, the job is incredibly simple. But over the last few weeks, specifically at the events I did down in Northern Virginia at Fair Lakes and over in Gainesville, I realized that is not what is happening at all. The moment I sat down, the dynamic just shifted. It wasn't a signing. It was a confessional.
A confessional. That's a heavy word. That implies people are carrying around guilt or secrets or at least some serious emotional weight.
They are. They really are. And that's the reality check I want to talk about today. When you put a book about management in the age of AI on a table in a physical bookstore, the conversation never stays on the page.
Right.
It instantly pivots to the messy, completely unfiltered, and sometimes really difficult reality of their daily 9 to 5.
So this isn't the LinkedIn version of their work life.
Not even close.
Yeah.
On LinkedIn, everyone is an AI thought leader or, thrilled to announce my new certification. It's performative.
Yeah, it's a highlight reel.
Exactly. But in the bookstore, I got the raw feed. I want to share that reality with you today. If you're listening, I want to talk about the feedback that doesn't make it into the corporate all-hands memos.
I think that's incredibly valuable because usually when we discuss AI on the show, we're looking at it from the top down, what the CEO thinks or what the big tech giants are selling. We rarely hear what the person actually doing the work is feeling unless it's in some sterile, anonymous survey.
Precisely. So let's set the scene a bit. I was recently at the Barnes & Noble at Fair Lakes Promenade in Fairfax, and then a week later at the shops at Stonewall in Gainesville. Now, these weren't lecture halls.
Right.
At Fair Lakes, the way they set it up, I was right in the front of store flow.
So you're totally exposed. You aren't tucked away behind a podium or hiding in the business section in the back corner.
I'm completely exposed. I'm meeting the store as it literally flows around me. Mm. You've got parents dragging kids to the toy section, students looking for manga, retirees looking for thrillers. And that environment created what I've started calling the Barnes & Noble effect.
The Barnes & Noble effect, is that something you just coined, or is there actual sociology there? Because it sounds a little like you're romanticizing a retail chain.
Fair point. But it's not about the brand itself. It's about the space. Mm-hmm. Think about what a physical bookstore actually is in 2026.
Okay.
It's a third place. It's not your home where you have chores and family stress. And it's definitely not your office where you have deliverables and deadlines. Mm-hmm. It's completely neutral ground. Mm-hmm. It's one of the last public spaces where strangers can have a thoughtful conversation without an agenda. There's no boss watching, no HR representative taking notes, and no quarterly target hanging over your head.
That does make sense. If you try to bring up AI anxiety in a conference room, let's say during a transformation town hall, everyone instantly puts up a defensive shield. Right. You can't say I'm scared in a meeting because in corporate speak, that sounds like I'm incompetent.
You nailed it. In a business context, the language is so rigid. We talk about implementation, ROI, adoption rates, synergy. It's sterile. It's armor. But in a bookstore aisle, the armor comes right off. People stop talking about software and start talking about identity.
Identity is a massive concept for a casual Saturday afternoon chat. How do you get from, can you sign this book, to who am I within 5 minutes?
It happens so much faster than you think. It starts with, Hey, I work in marketing. And then I ask, oh, how's the AI integration going? And suddenly their shoulders just drop.
Wow.
Yeah. They say things like, I've spent 20 years being the best copywriter in my firm. That was my value. That was who I was. And now a machine does the first draft in 4 seconds. If I'm not the writer, then what am I?
That's the core identity crisis right there. It's the subject matter expert problem. If the machine becomes the expert, the human feels hollowed out.
It sounds like pure uncertainty. The setting lowers the temperature enough for them to ask that out loud.
Yeah.
You can discuss high-stakes changes. And let's be honest, AI is the highest stakes change we've seen in a generation without it turning into a debate stage. You aren't trying to win an argument.
Yeah.
You're just trying to figure it out.
So when the temperature comes down and the corporate speak falls away, what is the actual emotional landscape? Because if I look at the headlines, I'm told everyone is either terrified of the robot apocalypse or they're euphoric about 10x productivity. Is it really that binary?
Is rarely black and white. It's gray and it's messy. When I reviewed my notes, and I took a ton of notes after these sessions, I realized managers and individual contributors were circling back to a very specific set of themes. I actually made a list.
Let's hear it.
Trust, confidence, accountability, fairness, risk, pride, fear, and curiosity.
Okay, I have to challenge you on that list for a second. Those sound exactly like HR buzzwords: trust and accountability. Every corporate values poster in the break room has those words. What makes this different?
The difference is the context. They aren't using them as aspirations. They're using them as deficits.
Oh, interesting.
They're saying, I don't know if I can trust the output. I don't know if it's fair that my colleague uses AI and I don't. And notice something else. None of those are technical terms. You didn't hear Python, large language models, tokens, or API integration.
That is very true.
And that is the critical takeaway. Those are leadership requirements, not technical requirements. If you are leading a team through this change, you already know the truth. The hard part isn't getting access to the tools. A corporate credit card gets you the tools in 5 minutes.
Right. The barrier to entry is effectively zero now. You can sign up for a pro account on your phone while you're riding the elevator.
Exactly. The hard part is the human element. How do you maintain trust when a machine is drafting your communications? How do you ensure fairness when an algorithm is shortlisting candidates? These are the questions keeping people up at night. They aren't asking, how do I log in? They're asking, how do I stay human while I work?
It sounds like they're looking for a renegotiation of the social contract at work. Something like, I'll use the robot, but you have to promise me X, Y, and Z.
They are. And because they can't always find the words for it or the courage for it in a staff meeting, they're bringing those feelings to a third party. Me, the guy sitting at the table with the book.
It's incredible how much a physical environment changes the quality of the data you get. It's like the observer effect in physics.
It changes everything. Now, from all these interactions, 4 very distinct patterns emerged. These aren't just one-off stories. These are trends that I think define the current state of the workforce in 2026. But before we break those down, and I want to get very specific here, we need to take a quick beat. If you are enjoying our podcast, please click like and follow our show.
And remember to tell your friends about our show.
All right, let's get right into the data. I want to share the 4 specific patterns that emerged from these bookstore conversations. I'm blending these stories a bit to protect privacy, so names, companies, and industries have been scrubbed, but the trends are very real.
Let's hear it. What is the first pattern?
The first one is a phenomenon I call quiet AI.
Quiet AI. That sounds a little ominous. We had quiet quitting a few years ago. Is this related to that?
In a way, yeah. Quiet quitting was about disengaging. Quiet AI is about engaging, but secretly. This was a massive recurring theme. Employees are using AI tools in small, practical ways that aren't formally discussed, standardized, or sometimes even acknowledged by their bosses.
So essentially shadow IT, people using unapproved software. But why keep it quiet? If it helps them work faster or better, wouldn't they want to show it off to management?
You would think so. But the motivation is pure fear and survival. I spoke to one person who described just drowning in email. They use an AI tool to summarize threads and draft responses. But they do not tell their manager.
Why not?
2 reasons. 1, they're afraid IT will block the site if they find out. And 2, they're afraid their manager will say, oh, if the AI is writing your emails, I guess we can give you twice as much work.
Ah, the efficiency penalty. If you get faster, you just get punished with more volume.
Exactly. So they keep it quiet. They use it to clean up messy notes, create outlines, or even role-play difficult conversations. One guy told me he pastes his boss's angry emails into an AI and asks, rewrite this to be polite so I can understand the actual request without getting mad.
Okay, that's actually brilliant. But I have to play the skeptic here. This sounds incredibly risky. If I'm pasting my boss's angry email, which might contain internal strategy or sensitive client data, into a public chatbot, I've just leaked company secrets. Quiet AI sounds like a massive security nightmare.
It is a massive security nightmare. You are absolutely right. But here is the nuance. Banning it doesn't stop it. If you block the site on the work laptop, they just do it on their personal phone under the desk.
Because the pressure to perform is higher than the fear of getting caught.
Correct. The motivation isn't malice, it's keeping up. They are just trying to survive the workload. Leadership really needs to show up here. You can't just ban it because people will do it anyway to survive. You have to provide guidance. You have to say, here is a safe walled garden tool you can use. Please stop using the free public one.
So the silence is the actual danger. If managers don't know what's happening, they can't mitigate the risk.
Exactly. And that leads pretty naturally into the managers themselves. If the employees are engaging in quiet AI, where does that leave the boss?
Probably in a state of absolute panic.
That is the second pattern, the manager's dilemma, or as I sometimes call it, the middle management squeeze.
Middle managers always get squeezed. That's practically the job description. How is AI making it worse?
It's intensifying the paralysis. The most common tension I heard from managers sounded exactly like this. I want my team to use AI because we need the speed. I do not want them to use it recklessly because I can't afford a lawsuit. I don't want to slow them down with bureaucracy. But I do not want to be responsible for something I cannot explain.
That is a brutal spot to be in. You want the efficiency, but you're terrified of the error. Because if the AI lies to a client, the AI doesn't get fired. The manager gets fired.
Precisely. And here's what they're asking for. They aren't asking for lectures on the history of neural networks. They don't care about the transformer architecture. They want air cover.
Air cover, that's a military term.
It is. They want to know, if I let my team experiment and something goes slightly wrong, does leadership have my back? Or will I be the scapegoat? They want practical guardrails. Here's what is safe. Here's what is off limits. Here's exactly how we check the work.
They want permission to experiment without the fear of career suicide. Because right now, innovation sounds great in a keynote speech, but in a performance review, stability usually wounds.
Yes. If you give them that clarity, the quiet AI becomes open AI, pun intended, and the organization actually gets smarter. Without it, you just get localized anxiety and hidden risks.
Which brings us to the big fear, the existential one. We always hear about the fear of replacement. You know, the robots are coming for our jobs. Is that what you heard at the bookstore?
Yes, but with a very important nuance. And this is pattern 3, reframing the fear. While job displacement, the idea that my role will cease to exist on Monday, is definitely a fear. The louder, more immediate anxiety is about becoming irrelevant.
I want to dig into that distinction, replacement versus irrelevance. Isn't the end result the exact same? You're out of a job.
Not necessarily. Replacement is binary. You have a job or you don't. Irrelevance is a slow fade. It's the feeling that the world is moving faster than you are. It's the feeling of sitting in a meeting and realizing everyone else is speaking a language you don't understand.
It's the loss of status.
It's a huge ego blow. I spoke to people who've been in their industries for 25 years. They are senior VPs. And they are terrified because the junior analyst with the AI co-pilot is suddenly producing work faster and better than they can. They feel their expertise devaluing in real time. They told me they want to be the person who knows how to work with the tools, not the person the tools work around.
That's a powerful shift in mindset. It's not, I'm going to be fired tomorrow. It's, I'm going to be treated like a dinosaur.
Exactly. And that motivation is huge. If you're listening to this and you lead a team, it changes how you lead. The best leadership move right now isn't to dismiss the fear and say, oh, don't worry, AI is just a tool. That feels deeply condescending.
It feels like gaslighting, honestly, because it is a tool that can do a significant portion of your job.
It does. Instead, acknowledge the fear, validate it, and then convert that fear into capability. Say, okay, you don't want to be irrelevant. Let's get you trained. Let's make you the pilot. You turn them from a victim of the technology into an operator of it.
I like that a lot. Don't dismiss the fear, convert it. That's highly actionable. But are people actually asking how to become the pilot? Or are they just stuck in analysis paralysis?
That leads perfectly to the fourth pattern. How beats hype. And honestly, this was the most refreshing part of the entire tour.
Thank goodness. I think we're all a little tired of the endless hype cycle.
The fatigue is so real. When readers stopped at the table, nobody asked me about the singularity. Nobody asked if AI was going to become sentient and take over the nuclear codes. Not one single person.
They're completely past the sci-fi movie phase.
Completely. They wanted usable ideas. They asked questions like, what should I automate first, my email or my calendar? How do I use AI without leaking sensitive info? How do I explain an AI output to my boss if I didn't write it myself? How do I make sure this algorithm isn't baking bias into our hiring decisions?
Those are what I'd call sober questions. They're almost boring questions, but they're vital to actual implementation.
They are sober questions, and they are the right questions. It indicates that the workforce is moving past the wow phase and firmly into the how phase. They want to know the mechanics of the daily workflow, they want to know how the sausage is made, and they want the recipe for themselves.
It's fascinating. You went to these bookstores to sign some books, but you basically conducted a massive qualitative research study on the state of the American workforce. You took the pulse of the patient.
I really did.
Yeah.
And the contrast between what I heard there and what I see online is staggering. That brings me to the major conclusion I walked away with.
Which is the value of human connection.
The value of face-to-face reality checks. Look, online, AI conversations polarize incredibly fast. It's all about winning the argument. You're either a doomer predicting the end of the world, or you're an accelerationist who wants to burn it all down to build something new. It's entirely tribal.
Yeah, social media is not exactly known for nuanced management discussions. It's usually just people shouting past each other.
No, but in person, at a Barnes & Noble in Gainesville. The conversation gets specific fast. People aren't interested in winning. They're interested in solving. They tell you the truth about what's actually broken in their organization, including the parts they aren't proud of. They admit to the fear. They admit to the quiet AI.
That vulnerability is completely missing from the digital discourse.
Completely. And as an author, that lesson is invaluable. Management insights are rarely invented in isolation. I can't sit in my office and dream up how AI is changing culture. Those insights are collected, pressure-tested, and refined through these real face-to-face human conversations.
So the listening tour actually writes the next book. You're essentially crowdsourcing the wisdom.
In a way, yes. If you stop by the table at Fair Lakes or Stonewall, thank you, I heard you. Those conversations directly shape what I emphasize next.
So what's the message to our listeners today? The ones who haven't bumped into you at a bookstore yet? Is it just go buy the book?
No, not at all. The message is go find that connection. And I'm not just saying come to my events, though please do. I'd love to meet you. I'm saying go to meet the author events. Go to bookstores. Go to community meetups. Because they are spaces built for curiosity.
It's true. You walk into a bookstore and your brain just switches modes. You become a learner again. You aren't Manager John, you're Curious John.
You do. You can gain surprising clarity in those spaces. You can ask the question you can't quite ask at work. You can find out that the manager 3 towns over is struggling with the exact same quiet AI issue you are. You realize you aren't alone in this massive transition.
And that breaks the isolation.
It breaks the isolation and it lowers the temperature. And right now, with how fast things are moving, with how much anxiety is out there, we could all use a little less heat and a little more light. But I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over today.
What's that?
Think about this. If your team members only feel safe discussing their real fears about AI with a stranger in the middle of a bookstore, what does that say about the psychological safety inside your own office? That's the real challenge for leaders right now. Building a culture where the bookstore conversation can happen in the boardroom.
I think that's the perfect place to wrap this up. We've gone from the fear of the unknown to the practicality of the bookstore aisle. It's a great reminder that technology changes, but human nature really doesn't.
It's been a journey, and honestly, it's just getting started.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking us on the tour with you.
Always a pleasure. Today's show was human-inspired and powered with AI assistance. Be sure to visit us, www.botsandbosses.com. Remember, the bots are getting smarter, but you're still the boss.
Well, that's a wrap of this episode of the Bots and Bosses podcast. Enjoyed the show? Don't just listen. Follow the Bots and Bosses podcast and connect with John Binks online. Remember, the bots are getting smarter, but you're still the boss. For now, see you next time.